Welcome to another episode of Real Talk of Colorado with your host, Watika Leem. Today's show is about identity theft, which is a problem that happens annually to Americans, which is the act of someone taking your identity, such as your social security card, driver's license, or credit cards, to do fraudulent things. Okay, our guest today is here to talk about her experiences as it relates to identity theft. So please welcome to the show, Joanna Saenz.
Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm glad you're here today. So, Joanna, kind of give us some history, where you're from, if you have any children, and what's your family life like?
Okay. Well, I was born here in Denver. I was raised in the country, Platteville. I do have a son, a 4-year-old, Sebastian. And currently I'm single. Due to this whole identity theft, it put me in a position where now my family's no longer together.
Oh, wow. So, due to this experience with your identity being taken, had you break up or separate from your significant other?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really hard for somebody to always have media coming in the home and just to deal with that on top of children. So I ended up leaving, unfortunately, but God knows what he's doing.
Right, okay. So give us a brief history about how often did you travel back to Mexico? Because this is where this occurred at, correct?
Correct. It happened in Juarez, and I traveled every single year. My father is from Mexico, and we would go and visit my family.
So where did the burglary take place?
At my aunt's house.
Okay. And actually what happened? Tell us a little bit about how that happened.
Sure. Well, when it happened in the year 2000, we were supposed to take our birth certificates and social security cards. Now you take a passport, and those documents were stolen from me.
So tell us how you felt when that happened to you.
Well, I felt violated, of course, but I didn't know what identity theft was, and I just remember the biggest obstacle was having to deal with how am I going to get crossed back to the United States without those documents. So that was the biggest obstacle that we had to go through.
Okay. How did your life change from the experience?
Well, my life changed dramatically. It didn't change. I wasn't aware of everything until about the year 2005 when I received a paper from the IRS saying that I owed $30,000 in back taxes. Up to that point, so from 2000 to 2005, I kept track of everything. And, you know, being a woman and a minority, nobody wanted to help me, nor was there any education on identity theft. So I just kept a track of everything. And then when I got that from the IRS is when I went full throttle on my case.
Wow. So at what time did this situation have its severity to it? Or like when you came to the point where this is totally serious and I got to do something about this?
Yeah, well, to get a letter from the IRS saying you owe them $30,000 in 15 days, that's pretty serious. So that's when I took it in my hands, like I said.
Okay, so what's some of the steps that you had to take and start this process to regain your identity?
Well, the very first thing that I had did is make a police report. I called the FBI, and they just told me to monitor my credit and just compiling all the evidence against her. I'm a very persistent person, so for me, it was really talking to as many people as I could, letting them know my story and how they could help me.
So I know you was at a young age. I believe you were 18 when this happened. So
17.
17 when this happened. So how did you feel as an 18-year-old going through this experience?
At 18, it was still relatively new. I wasn't out getting any credit cards or anything. I was actually just focusing on my studies. So that I was in college. I didn't give much attention to it.
All right. Well, I see here. I wanted to show you guys. She has over 12 years of information that she had to gather, to put together because her identity was stolen. So, who are some of the people that you reached out to as you endured this to try to get help with this situation?
Well, let me comment on that first. So I had my son in the year 2007, and I was so scared for my life. What if my imposter murdered somebody and I was driving to an appointment with my son? What would happen? So I would carry a diaper bag around, and I would carry my son in his car seat. I mean, that's how relevant this box was to me. And it was all the years of information that I had in it. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So, okay, the young lady, which you know her name, and if you want, you can definitely tell us the name.
Sure.
But tell us some of the things that she done when she took your identity.
Well, my imposter's name is Patricia Garcia Pardo, and she is 2 years younger than me. It's a little ironic. My birthday is March 31st, so it's coming up. Hers is March 5th, and she was March 5th, and so by being 2 years younger, and just like her, I guess her height was really close to me. What I feel is every time I went to Mexico, they must have been just studying me or stalking me, because she was really, really close to who I was. What she did with my information was obtain a home, get education, have a baby, credit cards, jobs, totally assumed my whole life.
Wow. So can you explain to us some of the negative things that it did for you and some positive things, if there were?
Sure. Well, it absolutely ruined my credit. It destroyed my family. It just ruined me as an individual as far as always having to look behind my back. The great thing about this is I'm a very firm believer in God, and He's not going to give us stuff we can't handle. Right. So I believe the greatest accomplishment out of this and the positive is by Him allowing me to giving me this problem, I'm now able to help thousands of people for free. I guess I didn't cry over it, the spilled milk. I turned my lemonade and, or my lemons into lemonade. And I help people. And if I can, as a victim, tell them what happened to me and how bad it happened and still persevere, that's the most positive thing that I could do. And it's getting my confidence back, and, you know, it feels good to help people. Really.
That's good, that's good. So walk us through the process on what you had to do in order to start gaining your identity back.
Well, I had to write cease and desist letters to everybody, every company that she worked for, police reports. I dealt very closely with the IRS, just basically build relationships.
Okay, and is this still part of your life now that you're still doing? Are you?
Yes.
Okay, in what way?
Well, I got my imposter arrested on April 16th, 2008, and unfortunately, the federal judge in Nebraska let her out on a $500 bond because she was not a rapist or a murderer. So again, she's a fugitive, and I worked really hard to get her arrested the first time.
So what's the status of her right now? What's going on with her now?
Well, I got an inside tip. I have the U.S. Marshals working on picking her up. We do know where she's at, and hopefully by this year, we will be picking her up.
Oh, okay. So one of the things you stated that you make other people aware of this. So what steps have you taken to help people, as you indicated?
Well, I do courses. I work with our district attorney, with a bunch of our police officers. I'll be flying out to Vegas with the Sheriff's Department. I tell my story, tell them the steps as far as this is what I did, and if anyone needs guidance or help, they just come to me.
Okay, and you mentioned you have a couple of programs that you're working with here locally in Denver. Would you go ahead and expand upon that?
Sure. I work with our district attorney. I work with the department in the district attorney that pertains to just identity theft.
Okay, okay. And do you have any advice for people who may have gone through this or have not gone through it yet to educate them on this situation?
Sure. Advice, well, rule number one, don't ever carry your social or birth certificate in your wallet. A lot of people carry that social. The only time you need those documents if you go to a government agency and or you're looking for employment. So that would be my first step, never to do. Always shred information. A crosscut shredder at Walmart is like $20, and always shredding that information again so they don't have access. What the imposter is looking for is that number. We came in with a number, we're gonna leave with this number.
Right.
And that is what they want to work, to attain any type of belongings that they want.
All right, Joanne, so you've given us a lot of information about the help that you help with the DA around identity theft. Is there anything outside of that you do that you would like our viewers to know about you?
Well, I'm here to help the community. I do a lot. I have a modeling agency, Joanna Saenz Enterprises. I work with tons of celebrities, athletes, Carmelo Anthony, Ty Lawson, done Lady Gaga, Katy Perry. So I have another part of me where it's entertainment. Also, I'm PNC licensed through the state. I do business entrepreneurial classes and courses at high schools all around. And I have a program, Superwomen of Tomorrow, where I help our young women just define who they are, amongst other things. But thank you for asking. I just really enjoy helping the community and being a light for God in every situation He puts me in.
Well, we appreciate the fact that you didn't let this take you down, that you
No.
kept your spirit up and you're moving on and you're doing positive things in the community and for yourself. So thanks for answering that question.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thanks. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show and educating our viewers on identity theft, because I think that is something that's very serious. So thank you for coming on and educating us and telling your story. So we appreciate that, and we hope that the best works out for you and you find this person and they're brought to justice.
Thank you for so much for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming. Well, again, identity theft is something serious, and as the young lady stated, you need to be careful of all your personal items like your driver's license, social security card, credit cards, because it's prominent nowadays, and we don't want you to be a victim of identity theft. So thanks for joining us today, and we catch you on another episode of Real Talk of Colorado with your host, Watik.